Hello and welcome to another episode of Magicians Only. Are you a magician? It doesn't matter. If you like magic, if you love magic, this is the place for you. This is part 2 of our wonderful interview with a fabulous comedian that I met aboard the Scarlet Lady, a Virgin cruise ship, Virgin Cruise Lines. Matt was killing it every night, and he's so funny, so original, and has amazing crowd work, and was kind enough to sit down with me for well over an hour to discuss comedy, his approach to routines, to stand-up, to dealing with audiences, to audience participation. And in this particular episode, we are going to be discussing crowd work and how he approaches writing his routines. Also, how some of his friends do it. It's illuminating, to say the least. And I think that for anyone who does magic that is going to be connecting with a crowd and dealing with people on stage and off, this is going to be very valuable for you. Very valuable indeed. Magicians Only is brought to you courtesy of the fantastic Magic on the Go, where you can learn. There's almost 1,000 videos now. There's so much content, it's astonishing. Give you an example. For example, do you like ring flight? You know that trick where the ring vanishes and appears on a key case, on a key ring? Well, Eric Mason, back a long time ago in the 80s, had an incredible version of it called Magnifique that he sold through Repro 71 Magic, which was a magic shop in London that I love to go to, mainly because Jeff Maltby, who was the owner, would greet you at the door. He'd let you in, he'd get you a cup of tea, and he really made you feel at home. It was great salesmanship. But Eric Mason had this ring routine. It was Magnifique, and when you bought it, the problem was it didn't really work. The ring kind of fell off the gimmick. But I loved the method and the technique, and so I worked on some new handlings, and that is on Magic on the Go. It's called Mason's Miracle. It's just one of almost 1,000 tricks. Seriously, you can borrow a ring, you can have it vanish incredibly cleanly from a handkerchief and appear on a set of keys that either someone's been holding or that have been sitting on the table the whole time. It's a trick. I was recently performing in Pittsburgh at the Liberty Magic, and one of the magicians there actually kind of improved the gimmick a little bit and gave it to me, and I'm going to be showing that to you at some point. I'll be recording that for Magic on the Go because it's a cool little addition to the Mason's Miracle gimmick, which is my version of Magnifique. So anyway, that is just one. Can you imagine that? And absolutely, when I say clean, I mean the ring's gone, your hands are empty, you pick up the keys, it's there. It's a lovely, lovely routine. Just one of almost 1,000 on Magic on the Go. Cards, stand up, egg bags, cards to pocket, card through handkerchief. We've got all kinds of stuff there for you. And I highly recommend you give it a check it out. And now let's get to the wonderful Matt Stellingworth talking about comedy. When you write, how do you write?
Not like that. Not scripted at all.
Okay.
Talking about like working out with the patterns, because I know a friend of mine, Andre, his way to writing, he types his ideas out in Word.
Okay.
Goes through and highlights the points where he thinks the laugh points in red, the punchlines in red.
Okay.
And then just sort of steps back a couple of meters from the screen, unfocuses his eyes, and goes, where is the biggest gap? Where are the biggest gaps between red bits?
Okay.
And then he'll go through the black bit, which is presumably the setup to the red punchline.
Yeah.
And then a day's work for him, he'll be like, well, the setup was 89 words. I've now got it down to 37. And then once he's made it as brief setup as possible, as least space between the highlighted red punchlines as possible. He then goes through it again and highlights in green everything where he's going to do a voice or an impression, and then highlight in blue everywhere that he's going to do an act out or something physical, and basically tries to have all of the text highlighted. So the setups are the minimum number of words to convey that information. The gaps between red punchlines are as small as possible, and every setup or punchline involves some element of funny voices, accents, impressions, or physical comedy.
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant.
And that's great. And he's quite a short joke guy. Again, until they have to do an hour show, every comedian is jealous of one-liner comedians. Because the world is set up for them.
One-liners is a lot.
Well, you can't. They all have to invent something else to do in the 45 minute lull, because people just can't have 100 jokes at them, even Tim Vine or someone, an amazing joke writer who does like 800 jokes in an hour. Tim Vine's amazing. But yeah, there's so much more to it. So everyone's jealous until you have to do longer sets.
We have the same thing in magic. It's like the guys that do like the flash manipulation card changes to camera, but they're doing live shows. There's only so much of that you can do. That's brilliant. I have a setup that I use at home which is on a macro level. Is macro the bigger version or the micro is the bigger, isn't it?
Micro's smaller.
Micro is smaller, but macro is even smaller, isn't it?
No, macro is overall. Macroeconomics.
This is why I never went to university. No. All right, macroeconomics. Okay, thank you.
There's going to be someone absolutely fuming about this. Are you thinking about hyper and hypo? Is that what
yeah. So there's I have a macro version of that where I'll put on cue cards. I've got them up on the wall, and then the red ones are the orange ones are card tricks. The green ones are tricks that have audience participation. The yellow ones are card tricks with audience participation, and then and I've got like the quick bits. That's another color of a card, so that when I put the show together, I can actually, there's way too many card tricks, or there's too much audience participation. I'm gonna, so I can get like a macro view of the show. But to bring it in like that, it reminds me of what George Burns always said. You just keep shaving away until there's nothing left.
And I think that works for some people, but not for everyone. Not in comedy.
Is that how you do it? So
no,
you'll do it?
Absolutely not. It doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work for me. Maybe it's laziness. I'm a very lazy writer. I do a lot of waiting for inspiration to strike.
Okay.
I don't
like
sit down and read it. So I get I'll jot down a 3-word thing in my notes on my phone.
Right.
And then while I'm going out for a walk every day, I just sort of I perform it and riff on it in my head to a perfect audience that laugh at almost everything I say. And I try and trick myself into getting into that super brain when the audience are laughing and you're rolling with it, and that's when I come up with all of my best lines on stage.
Triggering flow.
I'm trying to trigger flow as I just use my imagination. I've got a vivid imagination, so I can use that as I'm walking. But none of it's written down. It's written down in bullet points. I wrote down in bullet points in my cabin next door, and then I crossed off the ones that I did in the comedy club to remember which ones I'll keep to use in the solo show.
But so you don't write down the structure of it. That's just something you work in as you go.
I just say it. It's just described as World War II is all I write down, and I know that's the story about the American in the audience at Coventry and da-da-da-da-da.
So, but I mean, the good thing about that
is... now it's word perfect. Now it's probably... if you've seen me more than once, some of it is beat identical as it was originally.
Yeah.
But I don't sit down and type it out. Sometimes you have to type it out for TV. They want you to send a script.
Right.
And what I found for me, and I don't know how it works for other writers, what I type versus what I say in person are not the same at all. I'm much more like verbose and formal when I'm typing. So if I type up a joke, I type it in a way that I just don't speak naturally, and I don't write things in the way that I speak. But I remember it was my first ever TV show. We did a TV show in New Zealand, just like comics doing 10 minutes each,
Yeah.
And it's a friend of mine who's amazing. He's so funny, so good. And he's a proper raconteur and storyteller, and he's amazing. And I remember beforehand, everyone was stressing about sticking to time, squeezing more punchlines, da-da-da. And he came on the day of the TV record. He's like, no, it's amazing, man. I wrote out that story about such and such, and it was 680 words. I've got it down to 449. And then he went on stage, and it was fine. It didn't do well, and it didn't suit him at all. And I'm like, no, you're a storyteller.
Because he was trying to remember, and it wasn't spontaneous.
Part of it's trying to remember, but part of it's not.
I'm just going to move this camera because I'm getting in the sun.
That's right. But no, it's just that your persona on stage is not someone who counts their words and uses the most efficient way to describe something.
Yeah.
That's not your personality. So not only are you struggling to remember it, also there's this weird thing where you think you can sit down at a computer and cut out words, and that is somehow more valuable a learning tool than doing it on stage and getting great reactions. Like sometimes, you can take too long to say something, you can edit it down.
Yeah.
Comedy's like poetry.
Yeah.
Most information, fewest words. But sometimes it's more than just the number of words it takes to get to that punchline. So much more detail paints more of a picture in people's minds so that they can imagine. The punchline is funnier because they can imagine all of the characters. They can put themselves in that situation late night at that McDonald's. They can feel it. They can smell it. These little tags that only get little laughs, they make it better.
Applying that to magic, one of the things that we have to do is be clear in our instructions, be clear that people understand what's happening, because most of the time they can't see it. So...
And I appreciate that's why you can't improvise maybe in the same way that we can. You're like, no, there is specific, detailed instructions and information that needs to be done.
And also that they have to recall. Like if there's too much gap between two things, they're not going to remember you saying something. I try to write it out, and then when I'm on stage, it comes out however it comes out. Because I find if I try to stick to a script, then I lose my awareness and connection to the audience. And I like it when an audience is a little bolshy in a positive way and they give me fun stuff to play with. You need resistance. You need something to push against. It keeps you alive. And I also feel like there's a lot of magicians will look at that as heckling. Heckling to me is like when somebody's aggressive and negative and threatening, but just if they're adding humor to the show and it's fun, like I was doing diminishing cards last night, and I licked the cards and they shrink, and this woman kept going, lick it again, and that was hilarious, because I did that anyway. I had a guy sat in a chair for the drink yesterday, and he very tall guy, incredibly good looking. It was really annoying because as soon as he got on stage, everyone was just looking at this fucker. And his shirt was open, shorts, and he's got his chest hanging out, and he's my height, and he's a cop, and he's just like ripped. And I'm sitting, and I realize as I go to put this napkin in what would normally he'd be wearing a shirt or a t-shirt, put this napkin, his shirt was, he goes, do you want me to do up my shirt for you? He goes, am I distracting you? It's just hilarious. I was like, yes, you are. And then I was like, I'm straight.
You're distracting everyone, frankly.
Yeah, basically.
Do you work in showbiz? No, fuck off with your abs.
With the bloody abs. So, that to me, that's fun. That doesn't distract from the trick. And as long as you're willing to go there and find the beat. So for the magicians that you've worked with, have there been, we haven't really discussed this, but have there been things you've really loved, and have there been things that really grate on you that they do a lot of the time that we can learn from?
On this magician podcast, they're all a bunch of wankers, Steve. I've had enough of them.
There you go. We're all wankers. At least we've got something in common.
No. I don't think that anything really annoys me. I mean, it's a common
trope that you think could be improved upon. I think I'm just trying. I want it to be positive. Negative.
I think it's a difficult thing because at a certain point, people are using the same tricks. Like there's, and again, like in comedy, I'm sure people joke about the same things, and it's not that necessarily people are stealing jokes. It's that, if you're writing a joke about something in the news, and 1,000 other comedians there are only so many takes.
How many tariff jokes can we do right now?
Precisely. But I realise that that's a difficult thing to say to people. People don't know which tricks other acts are doing.
Which is always a good thing which is why it's always good to either create your own. Rather than buying from magic shops, although I love magic shops, really create your own, because then I know no one does the chocolate box trick. I know that's it. I know no one does the bowl productions anymore. And there's certain things, cards to pocket is an old trick, but very few people try it because it's hard to do. So I've always kind of aimed for that. Are there tricks? Because I always have this conversation with non-magicians, and I'm like, what are the tricks that you see the most so we know to avoid them?
Now, I don't know that I've seen enough magic to be an expert on what I've seen enough. I've had enough of the giant box being hanged above the stage that you take down and you unroll it, and it's got everything that happened in the show, everyone's name.
Do you know, this is a great setup. I've had enough of...
I've had enough of
this is the segment.
And locations being written on a box that was been hanging up there the whole time.
This is the segment. The segment's called Welcome to I've Had Enough.
I've had it up to here. No, No, it's
All right, so multiple prediction endings. You see that left, right,
is that, yeah, that's done a lot. And as a non-magician, with no, I don't know how it's done, and I don't really care to know.
Yeah.
But there's this little bit of you that just goes, especially they, it's been up there the whole time. You bring it down, you just go, I don't know. There's like a printer or something in there, like, and I know like it's probably not that.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's one of those tricks where there's only kind of one explanation, even if it's the
Ironically,
wrong one.
it's not a printer.
No, but you know what I mean? Like the audience, I think, sitting there just go...
It's too much? Do you think it's too amazing? Or do you think it's...
But by being so amazing, you're kind of like, well, obviously there's some way... Do you know, like there's... I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes you're just like, well, there's obviously one way to do it. I don't 100% know it, but it's something like this. And it feels like there are other ones where you're like, I can't even work out I can't see the physics involved in it. And they're just more fun to me personally.
Yeah.
I would say, I feel like, and I appreciate it's difficult and technically onerous. And it is a reason you get people up on stage to respond to tricks.
Yes.
But I feel like a little more use of cameras and screens to see smaller things in big rooms.
Yeah.
Because often I pop into the theatres here, like the big theatre on the ship, just before it starts, and I hang about at the back so I don't get seen by anyone else or whatever.
Yeah.
And it is difficult to see stuff, even with my glasses on. And I appreciate, it's the same as, I'd love to do jokes with PowerPoint presentations, but most venues you arrive at, you're lucky if you get a microphone sometimes. But I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of small-scale magic being done in rooms that feel slightly too big for it. And you're sort of relying on the person you bring on stage being the most incredible acting, over-the-top personality to sell it.
Somebody did say once that, every magic act should be absolutely able to be enjoyed by someone who is blind. Because if they can hear the show and from the description of what you're saying on stage, from the reactions, from the audience responses, they should be able to absolutely follow everything that's going on. I think that's kind of brilliant, because most of the stuff I do is little. I have a couple of beats to the camera. Luckily, there's this new system, IQ Pro Show Control, which I love. I can go to camera at any point. Off of my phone, which is great. But when we were with the illusionists, we used the camera a lot. I think the camera's on almost the entire show. I think you can overdo it, and I think you can, because then people don't know where to watch. If you can control them to the point where, where it's just those important moments which you close up on camera, or if you have an iMag or something like that, I think that's really good. But there's a lot of guys doing close-up magic now on giant ass stages.
Well, you got to make a living. If you're good at it, I know. They must have struggled for a long time, only being able to do it at people's tables, and now you can sell tickets.
The first time I did a card routine, I have a card to wallet routine. I didn't do it on this cruise, but it's 15 minutes, and it just goes and goes and goes and builds and builds and builds. And they told me on the illusionists, they were like, we're going to have you sit on stage. You're going to be standing at a table on stage with two people seated either side of you. We'll have a cameraman, a camera person, which I think makes all the difference in the world. I think having someone who's moving that camera that can pick up the moments versus a static camera, that's huge. But holy crap, man, when I did that card change for the first time, I did a card change to 5,000 people, and everyone got it because they saw it on the screen. It blew my mind. And I felt guilty. I felt a bit guilty because I was like, it's close-up magic on stage. I don't know. I wouldn't want. If I go to a theater, do I want to watch a screen? But then it's part of the vernacular.
And people like that. I like smaller magic, I think, as opposed to huge illusions.
Box tricks. So what really sticks in your mind is like the big prediction endings. Anything else that maybe you think?
Just the out-the-box patter, which you don't see much of on the cruise ships, and I appreciate that. And I know it's, again, like we were saying, it's difficult when you're starting out.
Yes.
But you almost feel like, just get some of the timing down. Never memorize it. Look at it once when you buy the trick, and then throw it away before it's lodged in your mind somewhere. I don't know.
Some people won't even look at those instructions or that pattern, and will just try and work out a version of it on their own. But
and I know it's difficult because I'm sure to start with, you're like, that is a good safety net.
Sure.
And I guess maybe there's a jealousy from comedians. I know lots of comedians that are like, mate, you tell me couple of grand. I could buy 20 solid gold minutes in a heartbeat.
With a bunch of stock lines, guaranteed to work.
And I also appreciate the jokes can't be that big. You know, it is a distraction tactic. If it's a huge laugh, people know that they've thrown their head back and closed their eyes, and they know that some misdirection has happened. It's got to be an in-between laugh, you know. But I think it's jealousy is what it is.
There is a fair bit of that. Well, we do
it feels like being able to go out on your first ever night. It's the same I sometimes feel with cover bands. I'm like, you can just go out for your show and just choose the greatest of everything written in your art form. You know, do your first ever open mic as a comedian, and you're sitting there like, right. So I'm going to do this bit of Billy Connolly's. I'm going to do Chris Rock's bit about bullets costing $5,000. You know, and jealousy is all it is. And we go out there and fumble about at our thoughts.
I remember just doing a gig for the Saudi royal family once in LA, and I go out there to do the show, and I do my first 2 jokes, and I don't get any laughs. And I literally just said, right, we'll just stick to the tricks. And at least I had that as a fallback, you know, and it was really funny because they kept stopping me and discussing the trick in their own language, and then saying to me, this isn't real, yes? And I would say, no, it's not real. It's, you know, I will show you how it's done if you're worried about it. No, continue. And then, this isn't real magic. You know, they were very, very concerned. I try not to do stock lines, or at least try to rewrite. They come out every now and again.
No, and the same happens when you're doing audience interaction as a comedian or being a compere of a show. You know, everyone is sort of accepted outside of America, where hosts of comedy shows is sort of the low man's job to do. In every other comedy scene, the compere is usually the second most experienced person on. It's considered an important job and important to the flow of the night, and a difficult job. So it's kind of accepted.
It's also a thankless task.
And it can be, yeah.
Well, people, mate, get your own.
Mate, I've compared so many gigs, smashed it, done bits of material and crowd work. People come up to you after, go, mate, you were really funny. You should try doing comedy sometime. As if you were working behind the bar in the venue, and you're like, do you mind going up on stage and, oh no, just ask people their job and make fun of it, then bring someone on, you know. Wow. So that's sort of, it's accepted that there's sort of not stock jokes, but stock tactics used for that, and we accept that because it's like, it's a hard job, it's a thankless task. You're allowed. It's the same as on the street. I know street performers, they've like, we got some stock lines.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know, you take some from the pot and you put some in yourself.
There you go.
That you will thank, you know, you'll happily give to other people because you took someone else's
generation.
Take an ad, you know. And
one last thing I want to ask you is the sun is setting, it's killing me. I'm going to move the camera again because I don't want to.
Then you better switch.
Really, there isn't really a place for me to escape to. Okay, I'm just going to have to be in the sun. Let me find my light.
Looking good, mate. Christ. Bronze.
I got it's golden hour. Maybe I shouldn't. You know what? Fucking, I'll take it.
Do it properly.
Golden hour.
Go on, son.
It's gonna be really interesting. We'll see whether the camera is able to handle the. Oh hell, yeah. All right. Okay, this works. So the final thing I wanted to ask you, I was watching your show on the first night I came on the ship, and I loved how your crowd work is excellent. Like,
thank you.
And what impressed me about it was how much you remembered people saying, and then how you wove it together, which is crowd work, right? But I think a lot of people, first of all, I hate the term crowd work. We always used to call it banter, you know, just talking to the audience, it's improv, whatever. Crowd work makes it sound like it's an official.
Well, now it's an industry.
It's an industry on Facebook.
It's Crowd Work LLC now, isn't it? It needs to, which is a funny thing because for a long time, comedians, you know, everyone was worried, you know, in the world where you needed to go viral, and it's like, you don't need one video to go mega viral. What you need is dozens to do mediumly well. And no one wrote enough material for that. Very few people turn over enough material to do that. So, you know, because also you're using online to sell tickets to live shows. So if you burn all of your material, and all of those people are like, wow, I saw 2 hours of his brilliant jokes. Now I will go see him live. So I finally give him some money, and you've got nothing left.
And it's the same shit.
And for a long time, you know, no one thought to put crowd work up because we were quite dismissive of it. It's like, you know, you just ask people their jobs and make fun of it. It's fairly formulaic or whatever. But we forgot and didn't realise till very recently when I think Paul Smith and Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool were the first to really get into it, is that the audiences think it's magic. People think that you've got stooges, in the crowd. And I know Al Murray, the pub landlord character act from the UK, he spends half his tour show talking to the front row, and people genuinely think he has employed 35 people on presumably equity or SAG after a minimum contracts to follow him around, So now it's big business.
It's big business. Do you find it an easy thing to do? Was it a technique that you had to learn? You picked up watching people? What do you have an approach to it?
I started doing it early on, because the open mics that I did early on, the open mic shows and the small shows and the new material shows, were all unpaid, but it might be $50 if you host it, because you have to be there for 2.5 hours and wrangle comedians, whatever. So I started doing it early on, and there was some advice I got from someone early on to start doing comparing or emceeing early, because it's great preparation, even if you don't do crowd work much. And you don't have to do all crowd work. In fact, I would specifically say don't do all crowd work. Yeah. If you only do crowd chat and then you bring on a short joke or a one-liner comedian, you can see them struggle. It can really create a problem for them, especially now where people see so much crowd work online. Young people think that that's what comedy is.
Yeah.
So I think do some crowd work, and then before you bring someone on, do some material.
Train
them that this is not an all back and forth. This is what jokes are, and it will mostly be that. And also it was great to do. People were like, you've got to do it, because before you start doing your own show, your hour show, there really is something to be said about going on stage to a completely cold room, which is what the compere does at the top of the show.
Yes.
Because even with a terrible MC, the audience have vaguely heard what they've said and they've absorbed some information, and the show is starting now and the music's going and they've heard the rules and where the toilets are. But the first time you do a solo show or a show at a fringe festival or an art centre, you have to be that start to the show. You have to
MC.
You have to deal with that first 10 seconds while people are finishing their conversations and not let it throw you off. You've got to engage them. You've got to know how either have funny ways or just very efficient ways of going through the rules of the evening, what to expect, not just writing your own jokes for it, but just knowing what to say, knowing how to start off. I started doing it early on.
That's
and
good
I do it more on here than I do at home, because on the circuit in the UK, everyone does 20 minutes, bang, bang, bang. And you don't really have time. You just come on and, in a 20-minute set, you can just sort of come on stage and explode.
Yes.
Even if you're a low-energy person like I am. But you could just sort of go out there. But here, there's a bit more of an ebb and flow and a whop and weft.
But you're also doing 30-minute sets and 45-minute sets. That's a lot of material.
Yeah. And I like crowd work. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy chatting to people.
So you're a great conversationalist. We've had good chats on this cruise. So I think that's part. I think part of it is I think you seem to have a genuine interest in people, and you listen to what they say. They say as an act. But really?
Yeah.
Remember when I did that cheesy joke in the restaurant and all the comedians at the table gave me a look? That actually happened on this cruise. But you do seem to maybe part of it is genuinely, like acting. They say listening. It's all about listening. So you can react.
And I've got a terrible memory for their names.
But you remember everything they say.
I remember everything else. I can tell you. I was like, that's the South African from just outside Johannesburg who's moved to Texas because he wants to drive trucks, and she was from Moldova. The names.
And you combine these things together.
That probably reveals a lack of love or interest in people, because the name, I'm like, there's nothing funny in that. Get rid of, waste of space. Job, right. I will make fun of the job.
Okay.
So maybe there's an element of that. I've also just got a terrible memory for names. I've got a good memory, terrible for names. So some of that might be inborn. But firstly, I do genuinely find it interesting.
You are
I think also make them the star of the show. And I think personally, I think I'm relatively likable on stage. So I think I'm not going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
There's an element to that. Some people, if it's your personality, if your character is to be really bolshy and stuff, then people accept like a one-liner comic, that's not what you really think, and then that can be really funny.
Yeah.
But I think it's like be actually interested. Also, I like it's kind of lame, but I say, "Oh, that's awesome! Oh, wicked job, brother! Oh, you dope shirt, man!" Like a little bit of that. People smile. People don't get complimented very often about things like that. So, and then make it clear you're not going to ruin their lives. They're going to be the stars. They're going to be the heroes, and that's something I think some magicians could learn more of. Like, you're getting people up on stage. You are asking a lot. That is people's worst nightmare.
I talk about that a lot because
speaking in public,
I've seen magicians use spectators as props.
Yeah.
They're just stand here, do this, hold that, and then just make fun of them. And
then they feel so awkward, and
then you can't get anybody else to come up.
And also people pick up on that a lot. Like they actually did studies into, they got really nervous public speakers to go on stage and give speeches.
Yeah.
And then an audience watching them. And then at the end, they did saliva swabs of everyone in the room. And the speaker had a massively increased high cortisol level, cortisol being the stress hormone.
Yeah.
But also, almost as elevated was everyone in the audience. Like, watching someone be anxious and stressed makes us anxious and stressed.
Okay.
Like physically, not like emotionally. Physically, we release stress hormones watching someone be uncomfortable on stage, except for like 2% of the people who didn't, and those were the psychopaths.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would it's make them the hero. They're the star. They haven't agreed. I mean, magic's slightly different, and comedy slightly different.
I feel the same way. When I get someone up on stage, I want them to feel comfortable. I even say sometimes to the ladies, look, especially the ladies, when they go and they look really nervous, I'm like, look, I don't make fun of people. I have fun with people. We're gonna have a good time, relax, shake it out.
And also, so it doesn't always have to be on mic. You can always just pull it away and lean. If it's a big enough room, lean in them. Don't worry, man, it's going to be fun. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And what I meant by the difference is, like, people sit in the front row of magic. Maybe they kind of expect that it's going to happen. But in comedy in particular, like, it's not part of the agreement, really. Yeah. So make them the stars. Always have an out. That's my advice.
Okay.
Which is that, and it's relatively easy to shoehorn in. I tend to ask fairly basic questions because I think anyone that's done a lot of crowd work or brought a lot of volunteers up on stage has always thought, I'm going to reinvent the wheel. I'm sick and tired of asking them where they're from and what their job is. I'm going to ask them what they think about, Rene Descartes, or what would be their favorite thing to do if they had $1 billion. Everyone's tried these things. I think my favourite one is John Kearns, an amazing comic in the UK. He plays a sort of character version of himself on stage. And he was just chatting to this guy. He goes, "What's your name?" And he goes, "Danny." He goes, "Danny, mate, what's your signature dish?" Which I think is a great question. But I think everyone's tried to reinvent it by asking more interesting questions.
Yes.
But what's difficult in comedy, and I imagine in magic, anything that's more than a 1 or 2 word answer that they need to think about and mull over and are unsure about ruins the flow. It slows it down, and then it gets awkward, and then they feel uncomfortable, or they think that they have to come up. If they have to come up with an answer that reflects something about them and their values that people might judge, that is stressful.
Yes.
So as much as I would love to do that,
when they look at, there was a lady I got up the other night, and I said, "What do you do for a living?" And she looked at her husband as if to say, I don't want to, there was panic in her eyes. Then she just looked at me and she said, I work with Social Security. And you sense there was so much more underneath that, I get a surprising number of, I don't know why, a lot of cops on stage, which I love because I have bits with a flashlight, and I love it when I get someone in kind of security or law enforcement. It's just great. But I will always say, thank you for your service. It's a tough job, and try and get remembered, because an audience can have 2 different ways of feeling about law enforcement. Yeah. Some people love them, and some
especially
people
in America, because everyone's there like jerking off. I mean, on these ships, my go-to line is I've had quite a few police officers.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you're a cop," and then it doesn't get a clap like it used to. And I referenced that. I was like, that used to get an immediate cheer, didn't it, mate? Yeah. Now it's just a room full of people going, let's wait and see the body cam footage before we applaud them. And that usually gets by.
I wonder if there's a body cam line where you can like, oh, perfect, I've got a little body cam on. Can you see?
You can have one. You can do magic tricks in front of it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Would you like a body cam? I want you to feel comfortable.
But yeah, like again, it's just jerk them off a little bit. Be nice. You're asking them to help you at the end of the day.
People are way more sensitive, and I think being kind is going to get you further. If they like you, they're going to give you, Plus, if an audience member turns on you, and you've experienced this, if you get like a drunk audience member, the audience is more likely to be on your side.
Yeah.
And help you with that unruly person than the opposite.
Oh, yes, I had one of those just the other night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so, yeah. Like, be kind. Make them the stars of the show.
Yeah.
Ask simple 1 or 2 word answers that don't require debate or moral thinking or whatever.
Right, yeah.
To keep the flow going. Be genuinely interested in their answer.
Yeah. That's great, because we get a lot of software people on.
Yeah, a lot of software, a lot of project managers you can have fun of.
Yeah.
I once improvised a line about an accountant that I now use for any vaguely numbers-based profession that I can shoehorn it into.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a weird mix of be genuinely interested in their answers, don't be an asshole, make them the stars, like don't be automatically looking for the out. I think because some people are like, oh, are you guys married? And they go, yes. Oh, me too. Marriage is hard. So my wife does it.
Yeah.
And then you've just sort of weirdly used them to set up. They've done your segue for you because you're lazy. So I think be in the moment enough to let magic happen, but always keep an eye on, take the dog for a walk, but always have something that you can bring it back to. So It's easy for me because I've got like, oh, you do that job. That's cool. And I've got a joke about old jobs I used to do. That'll work. Yeah. Oh, you're married. You got kids? And if they say no, I'm like, well, mate, don't have kids because I do have kids. And da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
Or if you guys got kids? Yes.
That's
oh,
really
my
smart.
God.
The questions that you ask, you should have something. If they don't give you any gold or if there's nothing you can use at that moment, having that extra little nugget that you can keep those laughs rolling.
And also, like, crowd work gets bigger laughs than it deserves because it's obviously in the moment and improvised. So little jokes like that can get a bigger response than they actually deserve. Yeah. And it's amazing how, and maybe this is magic. I'm a magician myself.
Mm-hmm. Honorary magician.
Honorary, thank you. But people have forgotten that you asked the question. You'll go, hey Steve, you got kids? You go, yes. I mean, oh my God, me too, mate. Thing about kids is X, Y, and Z. And people go, that's amazing. The guy said that he had kids, and the comedian and all these jokes about kids. They forget the part where I asked you if you had kids.
It's like magic. It's pre-show work. Yeah, on stage. That's really good advice. I hope everyone here listens to everything that Matt has to say, because I think this is real gold when it comes to working on your magic, working on your show, putting material together, working on your routines. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me, so much. What a delight on our balcony. Before you leave me tomorrow, and I do 9 sea days
in front of me hammock.
Yeah, lovely.
I didn't even try getting in it, mate.
Mate, no. It's so exciting, and then you do it for 2 minutes, and you're like, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, and I've got all these red scratches across my back.
Why would anybody?
I'm gonna go sit on my bed and watch Hacks.
In the air
That's what I'm gonna
conditioning.
do.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Right, guys,
thank you.
I will see you again. Remember, Magicians Only is sponsored by Magic on the Go. If you want to learn magic, if you want more of this kind of stuff, we've got almost 1,000 videos now. So, Matt, you could actually, if you want a second act with magic, I'll send you a membership. You can learn some tricks, and then we'll have you as a magic competition. The funniest stand-up comedy magic guy who.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I used to be a criminologist. I used to be the funniest lecturer in the world, and then I went to being the medium funny comedian.
That's true, though, right? You were lecturing in criminology. That's oh my God! You should do a comedy criminology podcast.
I know I should. I do. A lot of people have told me that I am too lazy. I've got kids.
You got
no time.
That helps us choose our career goal. But thank you for coming. Check out Magic on the Go, magiconthego.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you on the next one. Ciao. There you have it. A huge thanks to Matt Stellingworth for spending the time with me on board the ship when he could have been drinking in his cabin. It's so nice of you, Matt. Hope to see you soon in England. And listen, if you enjoyed today's episode of Magicians Only, please feel free to drop something in the tip jar for me and the team. Always appreciated. Also, if you ever see Matt, if you ever see him performing, please say thank you, because I think he really he opened up and he really kind of shared his skills. Actually, what a wonderful guest, because he always remembered throughout the entire talk that this was an interview specifically for magicians. And so he was always kind of saying, but for magicians, it's probably this or that or something. And I think that was just lovely. He never forgot the audience, and I think he gave us gold. So if you get a chance to see Matt, he's really funny. Don't forget, Magic on the Go sponsors this. Check out Magic on the Go, magiconthego.com. There's that awesome ring trick I was telling you about, and we're going to be adding some new stuff on Ring on Stick very, very soon. That's just going to blow your mind. Oh yeah, Ring on Stick, just when you thought you knew everything. Okay, ciao for now.